Of course, the larger question is how might this impact market reforms that are currently underway? Meanwhile, we're shifting focus to more developments coming in. We're now learning that China has summoned Japan's ambassador after sharp comments from Japan's new Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi about possible military support for Taiwan. Takaichi told the Japanese parliament that an armed attack on Taiwan could justify Japan sending troops under its right to collective self-defense. Beijing has called the remarks erroneous and has warned that any interference in what it calls its unification cause would be met with a hard response. Japan, however, says that Takaichi's comments are consistent with its security law passed in 2015. Tensions have risen further when China's consul general in Osaka posted a now deleted thread widely seen as aimed at Takaichi. Japan's foreign minister called the comment highly inappropriate and has urged China to keep the broader relationship on track. With us on the broadcast is Dr. Asta Chadda from Ritsumeikan University. She's an associate professor of international relations, joining us from Kyoto. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World today. We've of course been seeing this back and forth going on, but what's really shocked observers is the rhetoric, the sort of language that was used by the Chinese consul general to Osaka. We've seen the Chinese foreign ministry try to distance itself, but in the meantime, it's no doubt that it is a representative of the Chinese government that has made these comments. How do you think it augurs for China in the long run? Ma'am, over to you.
Yeah. Are you asking me? Sorry.
Dr. Chadda, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Pia. Thanks for that question. Well, I mean, I think a few days ago we were discussing on your channel, why Prime Minister Takaichi made those comments in the first place. And I remember saying that, she equated Taiwan security to a situation threatening the survival of Japan. And I mean, we know now that there are geographic reasons to it. I mean, Taiwan is very, very close to the last Japanese uninhabited islands. And also the fact that Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi mentioned that she could warrant sending Japanese troops to support the island under the right to collective self-defense. And this is the other, major point here, because Japan has been consistently trying to, in one way or another, reinterpret Article 9 and the extent to which the self-defense forces could be used as an armed force, because that's really, I mean, armed force is not something that Japan is very comfortable with historically. Now, China's reaction comes, very much expected, because they're being serious about it. They don't like the fact that, these remarks were made at the highest, space in the political space in Japan. Specifically, they said that these are erroneous comments, and what that means is they want Japan to retract these comments. But anyone who's been following for at least the past few decades how Japan-Taiwan relations have developed would be able to see that there are a lot of geostrategic and geoeconomic reasons underlying why Japan is doing what it is doing, right? So despite the implications for East China Sea security, despite the implications for probably worsening or some sort of obstacle to Japan-China relations, the Japanese Prime Minister made these comments knowing very well that they still think of Taiwan as a very crucial part, of East China Sea security. Its proximity to Japan is very important. I mean, the westernmost inhabited island of Japan, Yonaguni, is is about 110 kilometers away. So any Chinese action would be seen or would be interpreted by Japan as an attack on its sovereignty or a possibility of that, and hence them trying to put their self-defense forces, rather than just defending the areas surrounding Japan, to extending their reach and saying we will invoke collective self-defense and send our forces. I think it's a huge jump from Japan's traditional position.
Indeed, and we've also recently seen numerous incursions into the median line by PLA aircrafts, by PLA Navy vessels as well. On the other side, we are seeing that since day one, Takaichi, who's known as a China hawk, has called for transparency, and she's not someone to really mince her words. So, what do you make of China's reaction? Is it an attempt then to now take control of the narrative that Takaichi seems to now be steering?
I mean, you very rightly said that. I mean, for China to demand Japan to take back its words, and especially the words of the Japanese Prime Minister, is in a way them showing that the relations have already in some way strained. They don't. I mean, Japan-China relations, at least at this point, the economic relationship would continue, I suppose. But you know, there is a deepening of this rift and mutual distrust between the two nations. But also, what we need to understand is that both China and Japan at this point, they are very aware that this is not just a question of Taiwan, right? This is also a question of Senkaku Islands, because irrespective of how relatively less is the Chinese PLA presence around the Senkaku Islands, we do know that there are incursions from time to time. So Japan trying to put its foot down and show some strong response to what it sees as China's increasing militarization around Taiwan and in the East China Sea, this is very likely to cause further rift. And I mean, I do not see any possibility of Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi now rolling back her words. So I think at some level they are preparing in some way to both manage a deteriorating bilateral relationship if it were to go worse, but also at the same time show that Japan is now back on the scene and even militarily wants to contribute in some way to East China Sea security.
All right, ma'am, requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking some other significant developments. We're now learning that the United States has approved the sale of fighter jet spare parts and repair kits to Taiwan,